Never did I ever think I would see the day that we would see a games journalist crash out on social media and just say the quiet part out loud. That they are going to reduce the scores of games in the future if those games do not align with their personal politics or their personal ideology. It's never been said until now. We live in a world with such little accountability and responsibility that what happened to professionalism? Where did it go? What happened to just doing your job? How do you not recognize that when you are in a public forum and you are using the credentials of your employer at IGN, at PC Gamer, in your bio, you are representing that company. You are using their authority that they have given to you, and you are using the engagement that has been afforded to you because of your relationship with them to go out and propagate your ideas and say these kind of things. That reflects on them. That reflects on your fellow writers. You don't care about that. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't understand how people can even come to this. I don't understand how they could think that something like this is acceptable. And it makes a lot of sense as to why a lot of people don't find game journalism all that relevant anymore. Because they see that they don't respect their job, they don't respect their fellow writers, and they definitely don't respect their audience. They're constantly trying to attack them. They're pridefully admitting an abuse of power. They're done. It's over. They're cooked. They're crashing out. Today, what we're going to do is we are going to talk about video game journalism insanity and why the echo chamber that this industry has built for itself is now going to be its downfall. I'm never going to run out of content. But before that, I need to thank you guys, because if it wasn't for the support that you showed during the last displayed sponsor, well, they wouldn't have come back for a second round, and I wouldn't be able to feed my growing hunger for these texture designs. Look at this thing, dude. It is so cool. Displayd's texture designs take things to an entirely new level with tactile 3D contours and select matte and gloss finishes. You can feel the details in these. This is not just a poster. This is a piece of art. If you want to be a truly refined human being, you need to have these on your walls. I recently picked up their licensed Magic the Gathering stained glass mana symbol set, and it looks incredible. And there's so much more to choose from pop culture icons like Star Wars and Marvel to gaming franchises like Elden Ring and Warhammer. These posters are unlike anything else. And just like their classic designs, Texture uses that same easy magnet mounting system. No tools, no wall damage. You can swap them in and out whenever you want to. Plus, now they're available in larger sizes, so you can make an even bigger statement on your wall. For a limited time, you can snag Texture designs at discount. Click the link in the description below or head to display.com and use my code LEGENDARY at checkout to get the best deal. This offer won't last forever, so don't miss your chance to grab some of these premium designs at an unbeatable price. Games journalism used to mean something. It was supposed to be about keeping players informed, holding developers accountable, and exposing bad business practices. Back in the day, if a game sucked or it launched in a broken state, you could count on games media to tear it apart in their reviews. Heck, you were looking forward to it. That's just not the case anymore. Somewhere along the way, they just stopped working for us. Now, instead of protecting players from bad games, they're protecting bad games from players, protecting studios and developers from their audience, or they've just fully switched to political propaganda. It didn't happen overnight, but the shift is undeniable. Instead of giving honest reviews, journalists have become cheerleaders for the industry and their own biases and ideologies. Not good games, not for the customers, not for the people that are supposed to be reading these articles in the first place, but for themselves and their own egos. Instead of being our voice, like they used to be before, they started talking down to us, devaluing our opinions, and trying to teach those toxic gamers a lesson. The players are no longer customers to be informed, but they are dissidents to be educated. You've seen the headlines, you can feel the vitriol, and it's led players to believe that they're alone. They're on their own. Nobody's fighting for them. Nobody is in their corner. And those who used to be an ally, those who used to share their perspective, have tried to take control of our beloved hobby for their own self-serving goals. Outside of a handful of journalists, I've just reached the point where I cannot trust game review scores anymore. Dragon Age the Veilguard was hailed by reviewers. Black Myth Wukong was character assassinated before it even released. Concord, one of the biggest flops in gaming history, had journalists saying that they couldn't wait to play more of it. While game reviews are opinions, they are a service that's provided to both the players and studios to make games better. However, over the past few years, they've begun to read more like personal manifestos than any type of critical analysis of a product. You'd be hard-pressed to find a game review today that doesn't include some level of political or social political discourse, either cheerleading a game for pushing forth their beliefs or chastising the players that are saying that they don't want it. While journalists have pretended that this bias doesn't actually exist and saying that it's just in our heads, well, Now they let the mask slip. Writer for PC Gamer and IGN, Lena Hafer, the same writer who scored Dragon Age the Veilguard a 9 out of 10, is one of many gaming journalists that are having a hard time dealing with the 2024 election results. After the recent signing, changing the name of Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, they took to Twitter to write, "I'll take a whole point off the review score of any future map games that call it the Gulf of America. You think I'm joking? You think I want to do this forever? I can start some fires on the way out. Try to call my bluff. Nobody has ever let this amount of soft power go to their heads before, as far as I know." Where's the accountability and professionalism? I know that some people are going to make the argument that Lena shouldn't face any repercussions for using their freedom of speech in their off time, saying something on a public platform, but you have IGN's name and PC Gamer's names in your bio, showing that you're employed by them. That's how you got your influence. That's why you have your followers. You know, in construction, we had a project manager that got fired because his company vehicle was parked outside of a gentleman's club. You may be on your free time, but when you're running around doing whatever you want, flying the flag of your employer, you are representing that employer, and it makes them look complicit in your actions. I am sick of seeing developers and journalists representing their company, making a fool out of their organization without any consequences. What is going on here? Do they not realize the irony of their soft power statement when they themselves are threatening to use their power as an industry analyst to penalize and attempt to reduce the sales and impacts of games to hold companies accountable to their self-imposed purity test for something that is now legally named the Gulf of America? These journalists never take the time to self-reflect. They are so captured by their own ego and main character syndrome that they are oblivious to the consequences of their actions or how it reflects on their employers. When a games journalist just openly admits that they would punish a game based on their own personal beliefs rather than the actual quality of the product, it confirms exactly what players have suspected for years. Game reviews are no longer about games. They're about pushing narratives, exerting influence, and trying to control the industry. No wonder they lost their minds when Black Myth Wukong developers wouldn't respond to their allegations, because they need that power. They need that influence. They can't have these developers that are stepping out of line. This isn't about one writer having a meltdown on Twitter. This is an entire framework of modern gaming media. These journalists are trying to shape public perception, to influence sales, and to try to determine exactly what games are considered acceptable to them. And while their relevance is waning, it's still there. And if they're willing to dock points on a review for something as trivial as developers following a legal name change, what else are they willing to manipulate? It opens the door wide to every conspiracy theory under the sun, and it leads me to believe that their beliefs are exactly what have ruined games today. Maybe this is why so many games feel the same, why studios prioritize ideology over creativity, and why we have felt that our needs aren't being met or understood. Because once game reviews stopped being about informing players and started being about teaching lessons, they ceased to be reviews at all. They became propaganda, a system used to exert influence over a medium. How many times have you guys heard, "Oh, those toxic gamers believing that we're trying to control the industry, ruin their games"? You wonder why people don't respect you when you don't respect the intelligence of your audience. You don't even respect your audience at all. Heck, you don't even respect your own coworkers for that matter when you act like this, when you say things like this. You wonder why you're losing relevance. You are ruining your own industry. You're deleting your own job. You know, not long ago, I made a video that was titled, "These game developers are ruining their games." And in it, I showcased a bunch of different interactions of game developers talking down or attacking their audience, espousing their ideologies, political ideologies, social political ideology, whatever it might be, and crashing out, making themselves look like a fool, and by extension, making their employer look like a fool. That same issue is happening in games journalism today, if not worse. What's the saying? Don't talk politics or religion in polite company. That's professionalism. I am here because I'm trying to buy a commercial product, and you are force-feeding information to me that I don't want, nor am I interested in. You know, I talked about this where when the Avowed director started screeching at Elon Musk online, I lost interest in a game that I was otherwise really excited for. I was looking forward to Avowed. Not anymore. Because why would I be? If you're this unprofessional and messy on a public platform, using your employer's name that's attached to it, using the influence that that company gave you to talk about these things and act that way, well, why would I think that you would be professional at your job? Better yet, if you're that ideologically captured, that likely means it's going to reflect directly into your game. And guess what? I don't want to pay to be propagandized. Who would have thought? It's the same for games journalism as it is for games. I do not want to pay you with my attention to be propagandized. I'm here for a critical opinion about a video game so I can make a smart purchase. That's what I'm here for. But the only thing that they have continued to do year over year is prove that that is not what they're here to do. They are here to change your mind. By now, it should be clear to just about anyone that games journalism isn't about covering games anymore. They have tried to shape the industry itself. They don't just report on trends, they are trying to create them. They don't just review games, they want to define what is acceptable for game developers to make. And worst of all, they reinforce each other's narratives to make sure that no dissenting voices can get through. This is how the gaming media echo chamber works. They don't operate as independent critics or journalists. They function as a collective, a hive mind of right-think, a singular voice repeating the same talking points, pushing the same perspectives, and shutting down any form of real discussion. Dragon Age the Veil Guard is a return to form for BioWare. A return to form for BioWare. A return to form for BioWare. Gone are the days when gaming outlets had distinct voices, perspectives, and approaches. Today, almost every major gaming site feels the same. The reason? Well, most of these guys are owned by the same corporate entities, staffed by the same writers, and beholden to the same ideological framework. Ziff Davis owns IGN, GameIndustry.biz, Eurogamer, Rock Paper Shotgun, and VG247. Geo Media owns Kotaku, The Verge, Gizmodo, and Deadspin. Future PLC owns PC Gamer, Games Radar Plus, and Tech Radar. When the same few corporations own nearly all of the biggest gaming sites, you don't get any real diversity of thought. You get a unified, self-reinforcing narrative. That's why our needs are never understood or met, because we do have a diversity in opinion. When players say something along the lines of "we don't want politics in games," they purposefully misinterpret that and start writing articles like "Metaphor ReFantazio's success is further proof that politics are good in games." Actually, no matter what reactionaries tell you. You know, hell, I never even covered this, but IGN wrote a 2024 election breakdown and how your vote could impact video games. And while it presented itself as unbiased, it folded immediately under any scrutiny and showed exactly which way they were trying to sway their audience. Tell me, why is a video game journalist and gaming outlet trying to tell me how to vote? Better yet, did IGN even write this? Because they didn't even actually attribute this to a single writer. They just said this was written by staff. Look at how often they inject the same political opinions into video games where the discussion doesn't even belong. The players do not care about these things. Only they do. And God, are they obsessed with Elon Musk? Elon Musk branded right-wing Karen. Why is Elon Musk lashing out at games for being too woke? Elon Musk somehow became the top-ranked Diablo 4 player in between cheerleading for Donald Trump. Then we watch as they unilaterally turn around and start bashing game designers and developers for making decisions that clash with their ideology. When Dragon Quest III designers mentioned that they didn't like the removal of gendered characters in the game's remake, outlets called them weird for even mentioning it or caring because it's so normalized nowadays. When Lords of the Fallen's publisher polled their audience, they asked them if they wanted to keep body type A and B or go back to male and female. They changed it based on the audience's vote. PC Gamer then says they are embracing the fear of the DEI boogeyman. This isn't journalism, this is narrative management. Where is the diversity in thought? Where's the critical thinking? Why is it a creative freedom when developers make something that aligns with what journalists have for their own personal ideologies and the players don't like, yet it's fear-mongering and hateful when they choose to do something different? And this has gone unabated for so long because nobody's holding them accountable. Nobody's pushing back on them other than the players. They've created this self-sustaining system where journalists just prop up each other's careers, reinforcing the same narrative and shutting out dissenting voices. That's the reason why you always see them citing one another in their articles. They're effectively retweeting and reposting the same websites to flood the internet with their beliefs and their ideas. It's the same thing that you're seeing happening on Reddit right now. They keep posting, flooding the timelines to make it look like their opinion is the dominant one, when in reality, they're just trying to drown out everybody else. That's what's helped create this facsimile of power, and it's arguably created such a hostile environment for players and developers. And I would argue that's what's led to so many games being ruined over time. Developers believe that the media has influence. At least that's what it looks like to them. That's why you always hear them talk about how happy they are that games reviewed well before they even ever talk about how the players like the game. Honestly, that's more of a call sign for me to know that the game probably isn't any good. I think that we've had years of games being made for journalists rather than the players because there has always been this unspoken threat. If your game doesn't align with our worldview, well, then we're probably going to dock points from you. If your studio doesn't play nice, well, then we're going to write negative stories about you. If you refuse to engage with us, well, then we're going to have to create some type of controversy around you, even if none exists. Think about how this shapes the games that we get. Why do so many AAA games feel the same? Well, because the devs are designing the game with critics in mind, not the players. Why do games increasingly have corporate-approved political messaging? Well, that's because journalists will punish them if the game doesn't include it. Why do so many devs grovel and apologize at the first sign of controversy? Well, because they know gaming media will not give them a fair shot otherwise. The funny thing is, this is what has become a deciding factor when it comes to whether or not a game does well or it doesn't. The games that ignore the media, they are the ones that are finding success. The studios that haven't, and the people that still believe the media holds power and influence, well, they're creating games for a non-existent audience. I think it's developed a creative wasteland where developers are walking on eggshells, forced to cater to a small group of ideologically aligned journalists, and they're making games for them rather than the people that actually buy their games in the first place. This is why games feel less daring, less risky, and more formulaic. It's because these people, with their soft power in gaming, don't reward creativity, they reward compliance. For many years, gaming journalists held a very privileged position within this industry. They were the gatekeepers, the tastemakers. They could make or break a game by covering it. They could promote them, and they were the ones that brought them to an audience. They could dictate who was worthy of praise and what was destined to fail. They could control the flow of information, shape public perception, and for a time, it worked. Developers listened to them and players trusted them, but that trust is gone. Not because of gaming journalism as a whole, but because of a toxic few that have compromised their integrity, built an echo chamber, and alienated the very people that they're supposed to serve. Instead of reporting for the audience, they started reporting for each other. Instead of informing the players, they started lecturing them. Instead of reviewing games, they started enforcing ideological purity tests. And the result, a slow, painful collapse. Website traffic is dropping every year. Social media engagement is shrinking. The only thing that's keeping some of these sites afloat is the ad revenue that they're getting from monetizing game trailers on YouTube. But even that's starting to slip as publishers are starting to cut out the middleman and just post it directly to their own channels. Players don't need gaming journalists anymore. They've ruined that relationship with their own egos. They watch YouTubers who actually engage with the games. They follow Twitch streamers whose reactions are real and not scripted. They find independent reviewers on Substack or Patreon who aren't beholden to corporate interests. The media doesn't dictate the conversation anymore. The players do. More game developers are starting to make games for players, not critics. More Eastern studios are breaking into the global market, immune to Western media's influence. More publishers are starting to realize that the power of reviews is diminishing and word of mouth is king. Player reviews are king. They can scream, they can cry, they can double down on their activism and their echo chambers. It won't matter. The audience is gone, and these outbursts that we're seeing from the IGN writer are only pushing the audience further away. Their influence is shrinking, and the future of gaming belongs to the people who actually care about games, not the people that are trying to spend all their time controlling them. If you're a games journalist and you made it to this part of the video, I highly doubt that's the case. I don't think any of them actually watch me. The only time I've ever seen them talk about me is when they put me next to Asmongold because he reacted to one of my videos or something like that, and they're like, "Rah!" I'm not talking about all of you. I think there are some great writers and some great journalists that are out there, and there's a toxic few that have taken control and they have ruined the entire industry for you. I love Eric Kane's work over at Forbes. There's a ton of articles of his that I completely disagree with and a bunch of them that I really agree with, but it's the way that things are framed, and it's never trying to preach to an audience, and it's never the same voice that you hear from so many other outlets. The same thing goes, I've been really enjoying the work of Casey DeFreitas. Works at IGN. She's been covering Monster Hunter Wilds, doing an incredible job. On topic, relevant, informational, a Monster Hunter veteran that is talking about their experience with Monster Hunter Wilds and covering the game and doing a fantastic job at doing it. And it's exactly what players are coming to you guys for. This is what we want. This is what we want more of. And if you did more of that, well, you'd see quite a big bump in engagement and just people genuinely enjoying your content. But you have a circle, you have a cabal. You have a bunch of narcissistic and egotistical writers that are out there that believe that they have the right to impose their beliefs not only on the industry, not only on the games, but also on the audience. And they're doing it at the cost of their credibility, their peers' credibility, and the credibility of the entire industry. And that's the reason why there are so many issues with games journalism today. It's the reason why people just don't want to pay attention to it. And by the way, I'm not going to pretend like there aren't issues with some of the more right-leaning media that's out there as well, okay? Because I've seen some of the articles that have been posted. You would think that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is Dragon Age the Veilguard Part 2. It's fucking embarrassing. I want to be critically clear about something, and I think this is probably the most important thing to bring up here, is that I don't include my personal politics in videos. One, because I don't really have any, to be honest. Politics just don't really interest me all that much. It just bores the shit out of me. Oh, they affect you. I know. I play video games. I'm here to talk about video games. I'm here to talk about games that I love and talk about games that I hate. I'm here to talk about news that I find relevant or something that I'm interested in or something that makes me angry. This is my confessional booth, okay? I get cathartic relief from writing essays and making videos and doing those kind of things. I am here to provide a service. I do not lose sight of that. I am a content creator that is making content to be consumed by you for your entertainment or for your insight or whatever it might be. That's it. That's as far as this relationship goes. I don't need to teach you nothing. I don't need to make you be something. I don't need to change the world. I'm just here having a good time. And that's all it needs to be. And I think the vast majority of the industry and a lot of these writers have completely lost sight of that. And instead, well, they just think it's a vehicle to drive whatever their ideology is. And that's what they've been using it for. They've hijacked the industry to use it for that purpose. And that's a problem. And it's the same in games as it is in games journalism. Because your stance, this is not your place to make a stance for your ideology or your political leanings or whatever it might be. These are commercial products. This is a service. This is a product and service industry. We are buying video games, and then we are going to somebody else to hear about those games or to understand them better or to have them reviewed or whatever it might be. You're the quality control. Journalists are the quality control, but that service isn't being served, and that's a problem. You know, call me a traditionalist, call me a prude, but when I see people like Lena go out on social media and say shit like that, the lack of professionalism just really bothers me. I feel like people really crave that. It's not even crave. I think people expect it. They don't expect people in positions of authority to act like that. And when you're a game reviewer, you are in a position of authority because you do, in a way, shape the discussions around these games. You shape the reception of those games. And you ultimately will shape the destiny of some of these studios in some cases. While, yeah, I know game reviewers aren't as relevant as they were, many years ago, they do still have some relevance. Not as much as before. Probably a heck of a lot less now. But, yeah. Anyway. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, found it useful in any way, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, comment down below. Follow me on Twitch. The link is down below. And I think that's all I can remember. Anyway, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Catch you in the next one. Peace.
Family, 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 family.